I'm so glad you're here. And if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you found me, as you probably could tell by now, I really geek out about this stuff, and probably not for the reason you think. The biggest thing for me that's stuck out in motherhood so far, there are many challenges that come with being a parent, but one of the most memorable in a really challenging way for me has been nailing down sleep for our household. It was one of the hardest things I've had to go through postpartum was sleep deprivation, and our daughter as well when we brought her home, our first child. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've had to go through, like personally, and not being able to show up well for her or my family, because I had such a rough postpartum period. And once we really made the leap and started to in sleep train successfully, that first night where I slept a full 8 hours, changed everything for me. And I felt like, oh, motherhood is not supposed to be me suffering. There is light at the end of like a lot of the challenges that we face in parenthood, and it's not the right solution for everyone. And there are so many ways to get restorative sleep for your family, and sleep training is one of them. And so that's why I'm here. All of that being said, I do need to start this class off with a big, big disclaimer that I am not a sleep consultant. I do not have any type of certification in sleep consultation. It's something I've thought about, being truthful, but like, frankly, I am just a mom that's done this 3 times. I've seen success in the method that I've used. I have used only free resources that I've found on the internet and through other parents and from professionals that have been willing to divulge the information to me. And so, while I do see value in paying for things like sleep courses or sleep consultations or working with a sleep consultant directly for the purpose of tailoring a sleep training plan. I also fully believe that you can self-serve and do this yourself with a lot of the materials and resources out there, and hopefully I can be one of those for you. So, with that said, just wanted to put that out there. If you are looking for a more tailored plan, I can definitely recommend you to some certified sleep consultants. But I'm here to share everything that I know, tips and tricks for the method that we've used, and most importantly, the mindset around approaching sleep training for your family and the benefits that you'll see coming out of that. So, all right, with that, let's get started. We've got a lot to cover, and I'm really glad you're here. So, just some quick housekeeping. If you can keep yourself muted for the duration of the time that we're here. I would love to know, and a lot of y'all have already kind of jumped in the chat. Let's do a little bit of an icebreaker. I'd love to know where you're joining from and what you are hoping to get out of today, and I'll kind of read through that. We've got some folks from Canada. We don't have anyone from Canada our last class, so welcome. Texas, Bay Area, Orlando, Florida, Margie. I want some me time at night. Yes, girl. Yes, and you deserve that time. You deserve that time. Dallas, Texas. What's up, Dallas? Jersey, need my husband back. Oh, I hear you. Yep, 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 yep. Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I have an 11-week-old who has never slept off of me or my husband, and we are losing our minds over here. Yeah, you're in the right time to start thinking about sleep training. Houston, Texas, I need sleep. Amen. California, Alabama, I want sleep. I'd like to see what sleep training looks like. Currently co-sleeping, and I miss my hubby. Yeah, totally, totally. Chicago, LA, Jade. Oh my gosh, hi Jade. That's my daughter's name. Love your name. I'm biased. Hoping to gain the confidence to do this. I haven't slept in 8 months. Yeah, I feel that. You deserve rest, and so does your family. Virginia, I need to stop being a pacifier. Oh, I feel that. Heavy. Bree, what's up, Bree? Oh my gosh, I'm fangirling. Love Bree. Hi, Bree. Texas, ready to put the inconsistencies to bed because we never know what to expect at night. Yeah, it's great to have predictability and for the inconsistencies to be the exception to the rule, and we're gonna get you there. Need sleep. LA, we all need sleep to be less cranky people. Yes, girl. Just around the corner, SF. What's up, Bernadette? Want baby to fall asleep on his own, only sleeps on boob or car. All right. Okay, let's get started. Thank you so much for dropping that in. Why is there a green line? Let me just delete this real quick. There we go. I'm using Canva. That's my first mistake. Okay. Here's our agenda for today. I posted this on my story if you follow me, so sorry if this is going to be a bit duplicative. We're going to go through some ground rules. We're going to go through my sleep training story, what sleep training is, what it's not. We'll go through exercise one. If you are near a computer or you have your phone and you haven't yet done the exercise, that's okay. Don't worry. We've got plenty of time to kind of go through it together. And if you don't have time to do it during our time today, then you can do it separately outside of class. And we'll go through some prerequisites to sleep training, types of sleep training methods, and then we are going to spend a lot of time going through my step-by-step approach with the Ferber method. That's the method that Maurice and I use with all three kids, all very different temperaments and personalities, and it was successful for all three of them. We'll go through common challenges and frequently asked questions. So these are the questions that I get day in, day out in my DMs, and we'll go through those in depth. Nap time. Nap time, we're going to do a crash course that's hopefully not too crash. We'll be able to go through that a bit comprehensively. Our second exercise, this will be focused on some of the challenges that you anticipate facing as you sleep train and what kind of support strategies we can think about to get you through those. And we'll round out the class with maybe you're not quite ready, but there are some fundamentals that you can work on if you think you'll be ready eventually, but you still want to make progress in the meantime. And then at the very end, we're going to have some time to do some live Q&A. So any scenarios or questions that you've been wanting to talk through out loud, let's make some time for those together. All right. And I guess one last thing before we get started. If you if we do have any points in the class where we can have folks come off of mute or share some of their exercises, just use the raise hand functionality in Zoom. You should see it on your phone and on your computer wherever you are. So just use that as a best practice as we go through the class. Okay. Let's get started. Some ground rules. So these are ground rules, not that I'm imposing upon you, but that I encourage you to follow, especially as you are thinking about sleep training. These are helpful for me to share with you all because these are the standards and the rules that I hold myself to when I talk about sleep training to anyone outside of myself and my husband. I feel that when I create content to put out in the world or share my opinions, it's really easy to not think about others and how they receive the choices that I've made for my family. And so these are just kind of some mindset rules and standards I hold myself to when talking about sleep training and working through sleep training as an option with other families. So let's go through these together. The first is I am respectful of other families and their unique choices. Sleep training is one option of many to get into a groove as a family. And so while sleep training worked for my family, it may not be the right choice for other families. And so when I speak forwardly about this, I need to keep that in mind. And same with the second. I recognize that different things work for different families. Bed sharing, co-sleeping, while that's not the setup that we've chosen, that might be the setup that actually works best for you. And you may encounter things, on like social media is a cesspool of people telling you what to do. But ultimately, like you should have lay of the land of all your options, and this might not be the best one for you. Um, I accept that sleep training is not for everyone, but for everyone, it is an option. And that's something I repeat over and over and over. It is not for everyone, but it is an option for everyone. Um, in the sleep training, like social media space, you're going to see a lot of I'm anti this, anti that. That's not what I stand for. I don't bash co-sleeping or bed sharing. I've done both of those things. But I also don't focus on these things because I'm not an expert in this space. And it's not productive for me to bash those methods of sleeping in the interest of me promoting sleep training. I recognize that sleep is important for a child's development and how I am able to show up as a parent. Again, this has nothing to do with you should sleep train, but overall, sleep is important to how we function. It's key to how we show up for ourselves, our families, and our children. And I touched on this. I'm not anti co-sleeping. I'm not anti bed sharing. I am pro sleep training. I personally don't use the terms cry it out or gentle sleep training, mostly because I personally find that every sleep training method, regardless of what it is, if done right, is effective. And different methods work well for different kids. Um, but ultimately, it's about consistency. I think the terms cry it out or gentle sleep training can generally be harmful for parents that choose methods that involve less intervention. It's a bit shameful in my opinion. And then lastly, something that I want everyone to keep in mind is the opinions of others do not raise my child. I do. So we are living in the crazy information age, and we're feeling judgment like from all ends. And ultimately, like really want to remind you that you know what's best for your family unit, and everyone else's opinion does not matter, including mine. So just use me as a data point in the decision that you will ultimately make for your family. Okay, let's go into my personal sleep training story. For those who are new to me on social media or who I am, my name is Janaea. I am born and raised in California. I have three kids with my husband Maurice. He's in the picture on the left here. And my sleep training story starts with our first child, Jade. So this is Jade. She's turning 5 in a few weeks. She'll be starting kindergarten this year. It really goes by so fast. I remember these really fragile and vulnerable days, and looking at myself in these photos, I'm like, who is this girl? Like, I wish I could hug her and embrace her so much. So fragile. If anyone else has a COVID baby, drop it in the chat. Like, what crazy times was that? Laboring in a mask. Like, wow. Um, all of these pictures you see here are me before sleep training. Obviously, on the left, I'm still pregnant with our first, and that's our first fur baby, Brew, on the left there. When we brought Jade home, we were so ill prepared for bringing home a baby. Not in the sense of like a support system or, the nursery set up. We had all the picturesque things ready to bring home a baby to our small apartment in Oakland. And one thing we did not prepare for was the fact that we would not be sleeping. It's so funny, like funny as in haha, like crying funny. We did not even, it did not even cross our minds that we would not be sleeping. And so the fact that we brought her home and we were up at all hours of the night, she'd sleep all hours of the day, was up all hours of the night, party, ready to party. I was a shell of myself, and living like this for 7, 8 months really, really drained me in a way that I was not proud of. I got to a point where I was like, what did I get myself into? I did not realize that motherhood would be this. I felt like I was just going through the motions, did not feel like myself. I felt terrified to even think about having another baby because just thinking that I would be living like this for years was really scary to me. And just looking at me on the right there, I'm like, I remember feeling this way. I would dread my nights because I would go to bed and going to bed in air quotes because I'd be up every 45 minutes with my daughter, getting her back to sleep, nursing her back to sleep. She did not sleep well. She would wake up every day cranky. Her nights were also not great because, sometimes I couldn't soothe her either, even with breastfeeding. She was exclusively breastfed. I felt like I could not have, I barely had 10 minutes to myself during days and nights. She was a horrible napper. She was not a natural sleeper. Like some kids just come home and they know how to sleep. The majority of babies don't, and she was definitely like on the extreme end of that. And it's so conflicting because You come home with your first child, you're so in love, but you're so vulnerable. You are in such a weird state of yourself. Postpartum is, it can get really, really dark. And I would look at other women who are having like what they call newborn bliss. And I'm like, what is that? That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. So this was me for 7, 8 months, just getting through nights. And this little lounger right here, this DockATot, they don't recommend kids sleeping in these anymore, or nor they ever did. But this is the only way she would get that 45 minutes of sleep. We'd have her in our bed sleeping in this. I would not feel super great about it. I wasn't super confident, but that's how I would get my 45 minutes at a time. And we even had her in this when she started rolling because I didn't know what else to do. Sometimes I would hold her and we would fall asleep and I'd wake up in a panic, like, oh my gosh, like what if something happened? So yeah, we and then we moved into our home and we were like, okay, something's got to change. I can't function like this anymore. And I was basically ready to go back to work and didn't know what to do. So, just encompassing all of that into some bullets here. Before sleep training, I was sleeping minutes at a time. I had a lot of postpartum rage. The smallest things would set me off, and that's because I wasn't sleeping. I had really bad anxiety. Jade was unrested and cranky longer than I think most babies are, and in my experiences with my two younger children, sorry, yeah, she definitely was very cranky and not rested. I resented Maurice a lot of those early months because he couldn't do much to get her to settle or calm. She would only need me. And so that can really drive a wedge time after time after time, and night after night. And so we definitely had some detachment in those early months. I dreaded bedtime. I dreaded nights because I knew what was coming and I knew that I would not get rest. It's like, what was that? My nights are horrible. I never had a moment to myself, and I felt really, really alone. Really in love with my baby, but really, really alone. And especially, during that time, it was not great. All right. Now, after sleep training, so once we decided to sleep train and we did it, and we'll go into that later, this is my life took a total 180, and so did my daughter's. Bedtime took minutes. Putting her down was literally what our bedtime routine was, plus laying her down awake. She'd be asleep in 5 minutes. We both got restorative sleep. And I remember the first night that I had slept. We had both slept, so I don't like 6, 8 hours. I woke up like, oh my gosh, so like, where's my baby? Is everything okay? And she was perfectly fine, sleeping, super happy. I had to wake her up. What was that like? Crazy. And most of these things on the left here, with just a couple nights of sleep, started to lift very quickly. And I was like, oh, so the common denominator was lack of sleep. We got time back into our marriage. The biggest thing was, getting our nights back together. Every nights became predictable. Drawbacks would be rare. My anxiety and my rage lifted. Um, and I started to understand or develop a better understanding of what my child was capable of doing on her own, and distinguishing that between when she needs extra support from us. And that's, I think, like what's been really, really valuable for us, even in these later years, is knowing and kind of sensing what my child is capable of figuring out independently versus when I need to step in and help her through that. So things like regressions and sickness and teething and all of that. Sleep training really allowed me to start discerning between those things. And last and most important, and I think this is something that people worry about and parents worry about, is there was no impact to our bond or the secure attachment that she has with both of us. And that was such a relief because I was going back and forth between like, oh, I don't want her to think that I'm ignoring her, or she'll resent me and she won't love me anymore. But the fact that she started sleeping and doing it on her own gave her that confidence, and we have experienced no impact to our bond as mother and daughter, and with my sons as well. No impact to bond. They're really like fun, hilarious, crazy kids. I love them so much, and they love me, and they love us so much. And so, knowing that sleep training did not impact this is something that I always find really important to share. Okay. And just really quickly, what it looked like, what the actual sleep training looked like for all of my kids. We sleep trained our daughter at 7, 8 months old. It took a night and a half of her being sleep trained. We used Ferber. We also moved to Extinction because the check-ins agitated her. Our middle son, who was way more of quote unquote a natural sleeper coming home from the hospital, he was almost 2 months old, and that can kind of sound a little jarring to people, but he did not require to eat anymore at night, and we just, that's not necessarily a requirement to sleep train, but we just felt that it would help him sleep better, and so we did it, and it took him a couple nights, and he's still our best sleeper to this day. And then our youngest, Kenzo, he was in our room still. He was in our room up until 7, 8 months old. We sleep trained him just shy of 4 months old in our room in the same bedroom. And it took him 5 nights. So, like definitely the longest experience. And it was hard, but we got through it. And he is now a great sleeper. And he now shares a room with his big brother. And we did use Ferber for all three kids. All right, let's go into what sleep training is and what it is not. So, sleep training is the process of teaching your baby to fall asleep independently without your intervention or dependency on what we call sleep association. So, this could be rocking to sleep or nursing to sleep or even pacifier. The ultimate goal of sleep training is to establish new sleep habits and improve the quality of sleep, not just for your baby, but for the entire family. And emphasis on the independence there. Sleep training helps the entire family unit achieve restorative sleep. And sleep training is not necessarily about the method that you choose, but it is about consistency, confidence, and patience on your part as the parent. Not necessarily, in my opinion, readiness, like more so than readiness of your child. It's more about your confidence and your consistency and your willingness to see them through that, through a skill that they are very capable of learning. One of the very first skills that they're capable of learning. It's an option for every family. We went through that. It's confidence in your child's abilities to learn one of the first skills they're capable of learning. And it's helpful in distinguishing when your baby needs extra support versus when they're capable of independence. And the more that you kind of stick with it and you're paying attention to the coos that they make and the soothing that they're doing with themselves, it really you really start to distinguish between like, oh, that's a different cry than this type of cry, or oh, like this is whining versus full on crying. I actually really think that they need my support here, and sleep training has helped me develop that kind of sense of distinguishing between my child's cries, and what kind of support that they need. All right, let's go into what sleep training is not. It's not one size fits all. Different methods for different families, different strokes. It's not going to look the same. I get a lot of questions about how long should this take, or what am I doing wrong? Or, I have a friend who was able to sleep train her baby in a week. Like, why are we on week 3 and we haven't seen the amount of progress that they've seen? Babies are different. Like every baby is unique from the next. It's not one size fits all, and it's about consistency. And there is no like prescribed amount of time that you'll need to stick with it to for it to start working, quote unquote. It's about your consistency and your patience. It's not damaging to your bond. And it is not, I repeat, not a cure for regressions or night wakings. These things still happen after sleep training. So I think it's a really common misconception is that sleep training means no regressions and no night wakings. That's not it at all. What sleep training is it modifies the way your baby reacts in those scenarios or gets through those setbacks. So that's something I really want you to keep in mind. Regressions are actually really natural, and they are symptoms of progression, of development, of getting older. And so when regressions happen, a lot of times parents think like, oh, sleep training didn't work for my baby because they had a regression. Like, no, that's actually very common. It's very normal, and we still have them. We still wake up in the middle of the night as adults. We just know what to do when those types of things happen. Sleep training is not just for babies. If you are, age 18 months, 36 months, 2 years, it's still very possible to sleep train your child. Sleep training is not night weaning, so you don't necessarily need to drop all feeds. Your baby doesn't need to not be eating at night anymore, in order to sleep train. Those are two very distinct things, and we'll go through that. And this last one is what I love to assert all the time. It's not about age-specific readiness, in my opinion. It's about your readiness. It's about parental readiness. It's about your willingness to stick with it, until your baby sees success. And then lastly, it's not the right choice for everyone, and that's okay. You could go through this tonight, spend time with me, and you're like, you know what, this isn't it. What I'm doing right now, the process isn't broken. Co-sleeping, it's not, it's one of the most natural ways you can sleep with your child. And it is an equally viable option to getting restorative sleep for your family. And that's okay. All right. Let's go through exercise one. So, this exercise focuses on the outcomes. Oh, okay. Jess has a question. Just curious because I'm Eastern time. How long will this go until, and how will we get access to recording? Great question. So this is recording right now. I'm going to be posting it on my YouTube if you need to log out. And I can send you a direct link as well if you want to like not watch it on YouTube. And then this will go probably for another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. We're in here for the long haul. So if you're here with me, then I appreciate it. If not, don't worry. I will go through if everyone drops off, I'm still gonna be talking to myself. Okay, cool. Let's go through exercise one. Why do you want to sleep train? Did anyone complete this ahead of class? If so, can you raise your hand for me? So what I kind of want to do is go through each of these questions and take any volunteers to answer them. Okay, great. So this exercise, and if you didn't, that's okay. That's totally fine. This exercise is really important, and I know we want to get to like the meat and potatoes of the conversation, but this really is critical to sleep training success. Thank you, Bree, for raising your hand. I'm gonna use you as my guinea pig. Um, so I'd love to go through these questions, and if you haven't completed them, do them while we're going through this. And while Bree, hopefully she's willing to kind of come off mute and answer some of these questions. But I want you to go through this because it's important to focus on our outcomes. So first question, and Bree, thank you so much. Think about your baby's nighttime sleep. What do most nights and bedtime look like for you? And what are some common challenges that you face? Bree, are you willing to share what you wrote down? Are you there? Oh no. Oh no, that's okay. Is anyone willing to come off mute and share? Even if you haven't completed the exercise, like what do nights and bedtime look like for you?
I'll share.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Hi.
Hi. So I think I've probably had maybe like 4 or 5 nights where my daughter Sage has slept all through the night, but every other night, she cries and wakes up. I think maybe 25% of the time I'm able to nurse her and put her back down, but the other 75%, like there's no calming her down, and she comes to bed with us
Mhm.
and she stays in bed with us all night. So that needs to change. There's no
Yeah.
consistency here.
Totally, yeah. The definitely like the lack of consistency. It's unpredictable. You don't know what type of night you're gonna get. Totally. How about daytime sleep? What do naps look like for Sage, and what are some challenges that you might face during the day?
At school, she's sleeping 2+ hours.
Oh,
Uh,
great. That's
she's in
great.
daycare and they only give her one nap. But she sleeps 2.5 hours there consistently. When she's at home, she'll have three 20 to 40 minute naps. So same, no consistency with us here, but they're doing something right.
Yeah, it's so interesting how they're different in different environments. That's so funny. And it's like they're doing it on purpose too, right? But it's like it's I mean it's kind of reassuring in a way because you know that they're capable of doing that. It's just how do you replicate it at home, right? So
100%.
definitely. Can you describe what your ideal setup looks like for either days or nights? You can pick one.
I think at home, I would like the exact same thing. I'd like for her to be taking at least 2 hour naps. I'd even take an hour and a half. Um, and yeah, on the weekends, I mean, I'd like to squeeze a second nap in. But during the weekday, I think if she could go to bed by 8 o'clock and sleep until 7 a.m., that would be perfect.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And in the time that you would get back in that ideal setup, what kind of things would you do in that setup that you're generally not finding yourself able to do now?
Oh my God. Clean the house,
Give it to me.
meal prep, wash clothes. I honestly like the time with my husband is like totally different. I don't have as much time with him, so I would do a whole bunch of things.
Yes. Yeah, the time with your spouse is so like you don't it's one of those things where you don't notice it until it's gone, like until you don't have it anymore. So yeah, yeah, that was a big one for us too. Um, I guess on the flip side, is there anything that you would miss from your old setup that maybe sleep training might take away from you?
No, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I love to nurse her. But that's not going to change. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
nursed him for a while, so no, I don't think I'm missing anything.
Definitely, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, so besides baby benefiting from those longer stretches, what other outcomes other than the ones that you have just called out, would sleep training bring to your household? Like
Um,
did you list the top three?
Um, one thing is just self-soothing in general. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it would probably spill into other areas of our lives where she can self-soothe. I put more time to hang out with my other kids. I have noticed that I've like done less reading with my son who's 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a 15-year-old, so I'd like to just kind of
Oh
hang
wow,
with
okay.
her a little bit. Um, so yeah, that and then I put more time to do things that I can't with like my baby attached to me.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, so cute. Hi. Hi.
Clearly not
No,
asleep.
yeah, no, I love that you called out time with your other children. And that's something, I went through something similar with our youngest. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this again. Like, our with our third. And then I had to really think about like, well, what does that do for my other children? So I really appreciate you calling that out as well. Thank you so much for being willing to share that with everybody. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. All right, so I encourage everyone to complete this exercise. And as cheesy as it is, I really want everyone to meditate on your outcomes. Why do I want to sleep train? Because the more you focus on that, the more you are going to pull yourself through a really challenging process to get your child to sleep independently. You focus on your outcomes, write them down, put them on a post-it note, put them on your mirror. I don't care where the hell you put them. Just put them somewhere and focus on them. Okay, so before we get into the how in the method that we're using, I want to go through some non-negotiable prerequisites to sleep training because these are equally as important as the outcomes that we just went through. First being, you are aligned with your partner or anyone in your circle who you're going to need support from, whether it be if you've got, your mom, your mother-in-law, your friend, whoever it is that is on board with this with you, you are aligned with them. You're equally on board with sleep training. You have this, not, maybe not the same, but you both have whys and you both have outcomes that you're focusing on, and you both know your roles and responsibilities. So, for example, like my husband and I, um, we kind of went into it knowing like, okay, what's our strategy for if someone needs to be, tapped out, aka me. Like my husband's like way stronger in this like in this area, to kind of stick with it. So, what's our safety word? What's the word that I'm going to use if I feel like I'm in a cave during this process? But most importantly, you both are aligned on pursuing sleep training and going through with it. If you're not aligned, don't do it. Don't do it until you are. And that, I don't want that to discourage you, but you will see more success if you have each other to lean on. You have each other to as a support system, and your baby will also feel that confidence from you as a unit. The next one is you have redefined your baby's needs. And I know that emotional needs are needs, but in the realm of sleep training, I really need you to reframe this, okay? The first need is my baby fed? Have they been fed? Have they been given a last feed before bedtime routine? Is my baby clean? Do they have a clean diaper? Have they, gotten a warm bath? Whatever it might be, whatever your standards of clean are, is my baby clean? Is my baby well? Are they sick? Are they healthy? If they're going through a cold, maybe they're not well. And is my baby safe? Are they in an enclosed, dedicated space to sleep? Fitted crib sheet. There's not a bunch of crap in the crib. Are they safe? Are they in a safe space? And if you can answer yes to all of these questions, then I want you to keep this in your mind. Your baby is not crying because of these things. Your baby is crying because they don't like this and it's new. So if you can take those needs out, like decouple that from crying, then it kind of helps you understand, oh, they can't talk to me like I'm talking to you now. They're trying to communicate with me and tell me, "Hey mom, this sucks." But that it's honestly just part of it. And that's gonna rub some people the wrong way, and not everyone's okay with that, and that's fine. But if you're pursuing sleep training, I really recommend that you try to get on board with this mindset because we believe that they are capable of learning new things, even if they don't vibe with it very much, which most babies will not going through this process. Um, Kind of piggybacking off of that, you're reframing crying as resistance to change. So crying in the realm of sleep training is not trauma, it's not neglect. It's telling you that I don't like this, but we believe that they can get through it and that they can learn. And it is physically uncomfortable, especially as mothers, to hear our babies cry. It is like ingrained in our bodies to like not let this happen. I could not tell you how many times, you guys, with Jade especially, have stopped and ran in the room and I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is horrible. And then I've had to restart. I'm like, oh, my poor baby. Like, she's so confused. I have to restart this over and over because I keep caving. We don't like to do that. We don't like to hear our babies cry. It's hard. It's really, really hard, but it's not harmful. And crying is part of the process, and we have to get through it, and we can. If I can, you can. Okay, here we go. Here we go. And you know that this is going to be hard, but you are confident in your decision. You don't feel forced doing this. You're on the fence. I get a lot of DMs from moms mostly saying like, "Oh, like your videos, you're really pushing me to do this. Like, I think I'm almost there. Like, I'm gonna do this, I promise." Whenever I hear, kind of the hesitation in those messages, I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it yet. You're not ready. I would rather you take the time to really be confident in your decision before you do this. Because if you are forcing yourself to do something like this, or you've kind of interpreted the things that I've put out there as you need to do this, then it's only increasing the likelihood that you're gonna stop, backpedal, you're gonna be turned away from it. I really want you to do the pre-work, which will make for more success before starting. Okay. And yeah, you know something needs to change. So again, your outcomes, focusing on your outcomes and focusing on where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what's going to get me there? And that answer could be sleep training. Okay, now we're going to go into the how. Before we go into Ferber, we're going to do a deep, like a deep end-to-end, like Ferber and my approach in Ferber. But I want everyone to know that there are different methods out there. There are um, a lot of like levels of intervention with when it comes to sleep training. So your involvement in seeing your child through that. Every one of these methods is effective. Your child may react differently to each of these. So, you might, want to research some of these and you know your child best and you can start with one. If that doesn't work, you can try another one. Because some babies just work well with different methods. So the first one, the fancy terminology is graduated extinction. This is also known as the Ferber method. This is the method that we have used for all three kids. And every one of these methods, by the way, involves putting your baby down in their sleep space, so wide awake, or mostly awake, right? So the Ferber method is ti basically timed check-ins or quote unquote controlled crying, some people call it. So it basically involves putting them down, exiting the room. If they go to sleep, great. If they start crying, then you start the clock. You start the clock for, if it's night one, the first interval is 3 minutes. You don't enter the room until 3 minutes have passed. When you do enter the room and you comfort baby, it's without picking up. So shushing, patting on the back, belly rubs, whatever position they're in the crib. So providing comfort without actually picking up. And you do that for a controlled amount of time. So generally, I don't know, 45 seconds is what's recommended. That's what we've followed. And those intervals that I just described increase with every night. So the first night's 3, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 until baby falls asleep with those 45-second check-ins after each interval. And then night 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, increase intervals over time. So night two, I think, is 5 minutes, and then 7, 10, 12. And then eventually, like the maximum is like you start with 15 minutes. And then by that point, your baby's probably going to bed within the first check-in. Another method is the chair method. This method involves sitting next to your child's sleep space, offering them comfort, again, not picking them up. And then with every subsequent night, you move the chair further and further and further away from the crib, closer to the door, until the chair is outside of the door. And then by then, I, with this method, baby will have learned to get themselves to sleep without you physically being in the room. Fa the fading method. So this one involves reducing the amount of time or the amount of involvement that you are using or doing with baby to get to sleep. So if this is holding or nursing or rocking, you are reducing over time the amount of time you're using that to help baby get to sleep. So if you're nursing them for 10 minutes, and then you move to 9, 8, 7, so on and so forth, until baby has learned to not rely on that association anymore to get themselves to sleep. Pick up, put down. This is, I think, as well as the fading method, one of the methods that involves like the most intervention. And this one takes a lot of patience and consistency. So it involves putting your baby down. If they cry, you pick them up and you soothe them until they stop crying. Once they stop crying, you put them down. If they start crying again, you pick them up. So literally pick up, put down until they fall asleep. So this method really emphasizes uh, like not or responding to crying with like physically picking up your child. Full extinction. So this is a sleep training method that some people refer to as cry it out. This is an effective sleep training method, just like all of these other ones are. Just takes consistency. Involves putting your baby down with all of those needs met. Remember, we talked about those needs, and allowing them to get themselves to sleep without any intervention at all. This is probably the most jarring sleep training method that people look at. This is actually the sleep training method that we transitioned to with our first because with Jade, the check-ins just agitated her. Like she was pissed off every time we would come in the room because she would be crying in those intervals for Ferber. And she would kind of calm down, like the cries would be like a little less and less. But she was still crying, so I would enter the room. Every time I'd enter the room, she would like fully like reignite like crazy. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just see what she does if I skip this check-in. And she got it down like that. And so some babies reacted to different methods better than others. And then I listed this here. So there's, more customized or tailored methods like taking care of babies, hence my Cara oranges. Um, but you can work with sleep consultants or purchase sleep programs. But what I've found, and some of the ones that I've seen out there, it's a lot of it is just modified versions of all of these methods listed here. And if you worked one-on-one with a sleep training consultant, they might put something together for you that is just a modified version of one of these things. Okay, give me a quick second. I'm gonna take a sip of water. But also feel free to drop in any questions in the meantime with what we've discussed so far. Okay, thank you. All right. How we sleep trained. And I'm very lucky because I've used the same method with all three kids, minus my daughter, as we just discussed. So we're going to go deep into the Ferber method, and I will go through modifications too if the check-in chart is something that you don't want to follow, but you still want to do with some modifications. So the first thing I recommend doing if you're going to be following Ferber is setting the stage. So what does your sleep environment look like for your child? Um, and this can be in the same room also. This doesn't necessarily need to be in their own room. So a dark room, white or brown noise, something that can kind of muffle out the rest of the world or the rest of the house. My house tends to be really, really loud. I've got a bunch of kids. My husband is not a small person, so when he's like walking through the house, it's like fee fi fo fum over here. I'm like, oh my gosh, my kid needs to sleep, bro. So white noise, really recommend that. Comfortable clothing, a cool room. It's better to be a little on the cooler side and a dedicated sleep space. Okay. So setting the stage, you have a good sleep environment for your child. Okay, let's see. Number two, ensuring the needs are met. Feed, clean, healthy, safe. Okay, we went through those needs. Are those needs met? And one of the harder things about sleep training is like quote unquote breaking that like feeding to sleep association. Like for us, I fed my daughter to sleep or nursed her to sleep for the longest time. Um, and so edge like bringing back the last feeding little by little has helped with that. So I would recommend like bringing that last feeding before bedtime to be maybe 30 minutes to an hour before bed. That way baby's still nice and awake and they don't associate like my eating with my falling asleep. Maritza has a question. Maritza, you were asking, does laying them to sleep awake but patting their bum until they fall asleep consider also Ferber sleep training? Yeah, so if this is during the check-in, yes. If you're doing it like just to get them down, I would recommend doing that for a shortened period of time, not until they fall asleep. Um, So just doing it while they're still awake and then exiting the room. And then Bree asks, do you pay lots of attention to the volume? I want to crank it up because we're noisy as well, but worried about their hearing. Yeah. I would recommend moving the sound machine as far away as you can, like to the other corner of the room, but then you can turn it up. So yeah, I do pay attention to it. But we've just got our backyard done, so there's a lot of construction during my kids' nap time. So I just moved it to the far end of the room and then turned it up, and it was fine. I think like the closer it is, like the more harmful it is to their little ears. But we usually have our hatch on like 80, 90 at all times, and it's fine. Okay. So needs are met. Okay. Yes. Laying down wide awake. This is going to be hard at first, like real hard. So if you can't do this right away, I would recommend close to asleep. Like, their little eyes are still open. And the reason that laying down awake or eventually laying down wide awake is important is because it decouples their ability to fall asleep from what you've been doing to get them to sleep. So feeding, rocking, nursing. We want to completely remove that to highlight the fact that they're able to do it independently. Like they can put themselves to sleep with whatever they do. If they roll around, they sing to themselves, they talk to themselves, they thumb suck, um, they hum, whatever it is. Like we got to give them the space to develop those things. So quote unquote uns or quote unquote self-soothing. So laying them down wide awake helps enable that. Okay. So let's say you lay baby down wide awake, and let's say that they fall asleep. Okay. If they fall asleep, great. You go downstairs, you do whatever you need to do. You have the baby monitor on. So a couple things will happen when you lay them down awake. They'll either fall asleep, like I just described, or two, they will start crying right away. Either way, you're exiting the room when you put them down wide awake. Okay. So regardless of if they fall asleep and then they wake up, 20, 30 minutes later and they're like, where's my mom? Or they start crying right away. Let the crying happen and you're going to follow this chart. So this is the Ferber method chart. When the crying starts, not when you exit the room, but when the crying starts. So say you exit the room, they're not crying yet, they're still awake. Only when the crying starts do you start the clock. So you have a timer, you use your iPhone, whatever you need to do, you start the clock. The first timer you set is for 3 minutes. Longest 3 minutes of your life. Okay. So longest 3 minutes. But you let that 3 minutes pass. You do what you need to do. You have a glass of wine. You sit outside the door. You cry. You do whatever you need to do. When the 3 minutes is up, if your baby is still crying, which they probably are because this is brand new to them, you go into the room. You don't turn on the lights. You keep the environment the same, dark, white noise, just like we talked about, and you comfort them for 45 seconds. When I say comfort, I mean shushing, patting, rubbing the tummy, patting the back. Mommy is here. If you're used to doing, singing songs, whatever you need to do to comfort them without picking them up. Do not pick them up as much as you can help it. After 45 seconds, you're gonna have your phone with you a lot, or whatever clock you're using. After 45 seconds, even if your baby's still crying, you exit the room again. Okay, so the point of the 45 seconds is to not get them to stop crying. Um, and that sounds a little counterintuitive, but that's not the point of this. It's the point of the 45 seconds is to show them that you're there and that you're helping them through this, that you're still there, you're physically present, and then you exit the room, even if they're still crying after that 45 seconds. If they still are, then you start the clock for that second check-in on whatever day you're at. So 5 minutes. And then you repeat the process, so on and so forth. Say after the third, fourth, fifth check-in, if your baby is not crying, I want you to stop the clock. You stop those 45-second check-ins. Even if they're awake and they've just stopped crying, let them be. Like let them figure it out. You going in just because you want to is interrupting like their process to learn how to do this, okay? So if you're hearing whining, like even if it's like not that really intense crying, talking, if they're making some noise, stop the clock. don't start it again. And if they do, if they do start crying again, then you can restart on whatever day you're on, back where you were at. So back at 3 minutes. And so say baby starts crying again, so middle of the night. So those middle of the night wakings, then you would restart those check-ins. And those middle of the night wakings are where that's where sleep training success is made. It's really hard because you're tired and you want to be like, oh, like let me just bring baby into bed. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the middle of the night wakings are where sleep training is the most effective because they're going to have middle of the night wakings even after they're sleep trained. And how you respond to that and how you let them respond to that is where those independent skills are developed. Okay. And I know I can't, I'm going to keep going through this, but y'all can like talk amongst each other in the chat and encourage each other or answer questions as you will. But I will go back to these as well once we get to our FAQ and our Q&A. Okay. So if all of that seems a little, oh, I don't know about this, let me give you some encouragement because we have made modifications using this method. Especially with with our first and our third. Like our second, he was off to the races. So some modifications that we have made using this method, I've comforted for like a minute and a half at times because I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave. I don't feel like 45 seconds just goes by so fast. 3 minutes is the longest 3 minutes of your life, and then 45 seconds, like it's over like that. So I've comforted for longer. I've implemented a day zero where it was 1 minute and then 2 minutes and then 333, and that was way more approachable for me. And then I also would not exit the room and I would just hide behind the bed, and that would actually make me feel a little bit better about like physically being in the room with my child. So just some examples of modifications that we've made. Okay. So I touched on this very briefly, but say after 5, 6, 7 check-ins using this method, baby falls asleep and they're sleeping for a few hours, which is great, right? So a couple things are going to happen, or a few things may happen after this first falling asleep instance. The first is baby sleeps all night, which is the most ideal, right? You get a good night's sleep, or maybe you don't because you're like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to be expecting? So baby sleeps all night. Two, baby will wake up a few times and they're able to get themselves back to sleep because maybe they're like I'm a one and done baby. I already know I got this. They'll get themselves back to sleep without any issue. Or, which is probably most likely, baby wakes up in the middle of the night and they wake up crying. And if that happens, then you start those check-ins all over again based on whichever night or day you're at. So, if you're on day two, if the middle of the night waking happens, then you start again with that first check, second check, third check, subsequent check. And this is where like the challenging part happens. I get a lot of questions from parents about, oh, baby sleep train, but like they're still waking up. And I think like a lot of the point is missed. Like sleep training is not just for that initial get down. It's not for that initial baby falls asleep at the beginning of bedtime. Sleep training is for all of those middle of the night wakings. And our consistency with our sleep training method in the middle of the night is what's going to make it successful. And it's hard because you're tired and you just want to get back to sleep. And so you're like, oh, let me just nurse baby back to sleep, really quick. And then we can both get sleep. But like, you're kind of just prolonging the outcomes that you want for yourself and your family. So really encourage you that if you're going to do this, be like ready and willing to respond to those middle of the night wakings with your sleep training method. Okay. All right, so let's get to the common challenges portion of class. So I've listed here the most common questions that I get in my DMs day in, day out. Like I get these questions multiple times a day, and I'd love to go through them. Um, and you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to like look at this and then also look at some of these questions in the chat here and maybe start there. Okay. Sophia, you asked, what if they refuse to lay down and only want to stand? Great question. And I don't know if you're going to like my answer, but did I? Oh, yes, I did list this here. Okay, great. Good job, Jan. Okay. What if baby is standing or sitting up? So if you're asking this question, odds are you are probably laying them back down or helping them get back down in hopes of them falling asleep. Um, if this happens and you're sleep training, um, you could do a couple of things. One, and there's like nothing wrong with either of these things, like they're both a fine approach. One, you can stop sleep training and you can help them during the day, like maybe it's, during playtime or during nap time. You can help them learn how to get themselves down. So if it's like guiding their hips, their little bum down to the mattress, so they know how to like get themselves down. Because maybe you don't want them to like risk falling down or like bumping their little head on the crib slot, or you can let them figure it out while you're sleep training. So, um, the reason we want them to learn how to do this is because they need to develop their spatial awareness. They need to know how to get themselves back down. And if the way they know how to get themselves down is that mom is going to help me every time, they're never going to learn. So I really, really encourage you in whatever way works best for you or that you're most comfortable with, allowing them to learn their spatial awareness. So if that means you're being very involved in helping them learn how to do that during the daytime before you sleep train, that's fine. Um, or if you just want them to, if you want to sleep train and let them figure it out at the same time, that's also fine. I'll tell a quick story. Like my daughter, we sleep trained her around the time she started to learn how to stand, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Like, what am I supposed to do? She fell back, she like bonked her little head on the crib slot. If these types of things like were not supposed to happen, we would not see these cribs on the market. You know what I mean? Like so like this just happens and they're gonna be okay. I promise they're gonna be okay. They and them like kind of falling back and either hitting their head on the mattress or like bonking their head on the crib slot, like it's how they learn their spatial awareness. Like I kind of hate to break that to everyone, but like we need to let them learn in whatever way that is. So if they're standing or sitting up, I encourage you to let them figure it out, either by helping them during the day and like not sleep training until they know, or letting them figure it out while you sleep train. And either way, either approach is fine. Okay, let's see. Let me see if another question in the chat matches what I've got on this slide. Um, for night wakes. Okay, Jess, you asked, how do you lay them awake for night wakes, especially if you're nursing during the wake? Okay, so this kind of matches, um, let me see. Ba, 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 ba. Like this question right here. Like, do I need to wean before I sleep train? So if your baby still requires food at night, so if they still need to breastfeed at night, that's fine. What I recommend that you do is feed on a schedule. If sleep training is like the decision that you're making for your family. Sorry, my light is so bright, you guys. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. I look like freaking Homer Simpson over here. Okay. Um, so if you're still feeding baby at night because they need the calories for growth, then I really recommend that you feed them on a schedule. So if you are feeding once or twice a night, say that first time is 10 p.m., that second time is 2 a.m., to not feed them outside of those scheduled feeds. And here's why. I like the scheduled feeds are fine. We want to distinguish between scheduled feeds and feeding back to sleep. And those two things can coexist, like feeding and sleep training. But if you're responding to every waking with feeding back to sleep, then that's kind of like working against the progress that you want to make with sleep training. So, how you lay them awake for night wakes, if you have a scheduled feeding at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., you get them for the scheduled feed, you feed them. Um, Ideally, like they are either awake or active while they're eating. And then right when they're done, you put them right back into their crib. If they happen to be drowsy, it's okay, it happens. Um, but like really reinforcing feeding on a schedule instead of feeding back to sleep. So you don't necessarily need to wean. A lot of the things that I do run into is like, oh, my baby's so hungry at night. I encourage you to talk to your pediatrician to determine whether they need for growth and for development the night calories. Because at a certain point, your child doesn't need to eat at night. Is there anything wrong with continuing to feed at night? No, like definitely not. Like it's very natural to do that. Do they need it for like critically? Ask your pediatrician because maybe that's what's kind of holding you back from, wanting to wean at nighttime. Weaning does make sleep training easier. You don't need to do it, but it might be easier and more approachable for you if you completely stop night feeds and if you have that peace of mind with your pediatrician telling you your baby's growth is great, you don't need to feed them at night anymore, then you can do that and you can remove those night feeds. Let's see. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna start going through some of these. This is a good one. What if we're sharing a room? I actually was so scared to sleep train our youngest because we would be sharing a room. I was so like we have the space for our kids to have their own rooms. My husband was very, very adamant about our boys sharing because he had, we grew up with brothers and he loved sharing rooms. And so I didn't want his sleep to disrupt my toddler's sleep. So we had to figure out how to sleep train in our bedroom, and we were able to do that. We had the crib right next to our bed. It is possible. It's hard because you literally have to roll out of bed during those middle of the night wakings to exit the room and like do those check-ins. But it's possible, and I'll go into this one a little bit more, but I recommend getting like a barrier. And let me go into this. If you're sharing a room, we have a studio, getting something like this to reduce the distraction that baby will have by seeing you while you're doing the check-ins, or like if you have nowhere to exit and enter, getting, some like a cheap barrier like this and doing the check-ins that way is just as viable. And we saw success with our youngest doing this and sharing a room in sleep training. Let's see. Another question that I get is, what if they use a pacifier? Do you consider a pacifier as like a sleep association? And I don't feel like the most equipped to provide an opinion about passies because none of my kids ever took them. Like they're a bunch of weirdos. They've never taken a pacifier. My youngest took one maybe like the first few days of his life. But none of my kids ever took a passy. They're all finger suckers. My daughter sucked her thumb, and then my sons both suck their two fingers, like on opposite hands. It's so funny. But here's how I would approach a pacifier if my kids relied on one. Before I sleep train, I would do one of two things. One, I would ditch the passy, like cold turkey ditch the passy. Or two, I would make sure that my baby knows how to replace it themselves by practicing during the day. I've heard a bunch of parents who have sleep trained, like they throw a bunch of pacifiers in the crib, like hoping that like baby will just find one in the middle of the night, and they do, and they see success with that. But a lot of parents will say like, oh, I just have to go in and replace the pacifier, 5 times a night. And if you're okay with that, that's great, but that's not really independent sleep because you're still intervening to get your child sleep during the night. So I would recommend if you're relying on a passy to either ditch it and let baby figure out a new way to rely on that type of soothing, or um, helping them learn how to replace it themselves during the daytime so they know what to do at night. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take some more questions from the chat. Um, Okay, another one from Sophia. Does sleep training start better at night or for naps? It's up to you. I always say start with your nights, like nail your nights first and then figure out naps later. You can do both at the same time, but like, why would you want to torture yourself like that, you know? So I'd recommend picking one. It's not going to confuse them if you don't do both at the same time. I always recommend starting with nights first and then like naps, and we're about to go into naps right after this. Naps just take longer to nail. Naps are really, really annoying. Um, they don't like daytime sleep is it's just really hard to get down. So nights are way more straightforward. We're relying on circadian rhythm. We're getting through uh, the longest stretch of sleep you're going to have in your 24 hours. So I always recommend starting with nights first. Um, Krupa is asking, my son, 5 months old, just sleeps on his left side. Is this normal? Yeah, it's normal. If you're laying him down on his back, I mean, here, and I don't know where you're located, um, if you're within the U.S. or outside of the U.S., but within the U.S., like the recommendation is to like lay baby down on their back. If baby's laying on their back and like rolling onto their side, it's generally okay. And that's perfectly fine. So that's totally normal. Could you do the 5 8? Yeah, let's go through the early wake ups. Did I list that on here? Let's see. What if my baby constantly wakes up for the day at 5 a.m.? So early wake ups are really frustrating, especially if you've gotten them like a really good stretch of sleep. Your baby is capable of sleeping 12 hours, for sure, for sure. It just might take them a little while to get there. Early mornings are hard because baby is so easily like aroused and ready to like get up. It's like it's kind of dusky outside. It's getting a little lighter. Like you're getting into that lighter sleep. But they're able to get themselves back down. Like my kids still around 5 a.m. They'll like, they'll perk up, their little eyes will open and they'll go back to sleep. And same like with me as an adult, like I will wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. and then I'll just kind of, go back to sleep. And that's just how it is. And your baby is also capable of learning how to get themselves down in those early morning wakings. So I recommend treating early morning wakings just like nighttime, especially if it's before 6 a.m. And I know that some babies are generally early risers and some will want to like they'll start their day at 6 a.m. or maybe that's just how your family operates. But if it's 5 a.m., 4 a.m., I would recommend treating it like nighttime. You can either let baby figure it out or you can do your same method if it's Ferber, if it's pick up, put down, whatever. But stay consistent during those early morning wakes, and baby will eventually learn to extend their wake time to what your desired wake time is. So that it takes consistency, it takes patience, and eventually you will see success. And it's gonna sometimes it'll take a few weeks, a couple months. Just keep at it. Where you will backpedal is if you start responding to that like it's your wake time because baby's like, all right, it's morning time. Now it's time to get up for the day. So it's really just about your consistency on your end. Let's see. Okay, Claudia, you're asking, my baby wakes up 3 to 4 times, cries for a few seconds. I don't have time to go and soothe, but it's hard because I wake up and I'm not sure if he's resting or not. Yeah, so do you have a baby monitor, Claudia? Or are you just relying on kind of like listening in where baby's sleeping? Or if is baby in the same room as you? If baby's crying, okay, yeah. If baby's crying for a few seconds, um, let baby figure it out. Like I would if it's not lasting for more than a couple of minutes, I would just, you can keep an eye on the monitor and let them get back down. Like wakings are going to happen. Like they will happen even after your child is sleep trained. And it's like sleep training is not about sleeping through the night. It's about the skills to get yourself to sleep in all scenarios at bedtime, middle of the night wakes. So the more that we allow them to develop that skill, especially in the middle of the night, the sooner that will be more of a silent wake and back to sleep without any kind of fussing or crying. But that's completely normal. Um, cool. Let's see. Marie is asking, how can I adjust to consistently get baby to sleep by 8 p.m.? Should I consistently wake him up the same time each day? And that would get him to sleep at the same time each day. He usually sleeps 11 hours, so wake up at 7 a.m. Yeah, so I would love to know, kind of like what is your bedtime right now? Um, like getting a solid schedule down is hard when you're tracking naps. I would try not to make it about uh I would try not to aim for like or just being super strict about, okay, I need to get to this type of bedtime. Like 7 to 8 is like the sweet spot for most kids. Some kids a little earlier, some kids a little later. Um, but I recommend like getting there by timing your last nap. So if your last nap is happening at 5 o'clock and your baby can only stay up a couple of hours before they crash, you don't want them to get overtired. I would time that last nap and cap it to optimize their last wake time so that you can achieve your desired bedtime, if that makes sense. So if your desired bedtime is 8 p.m. and your baby can only stay up 2 hours before they like really start to get into that overtired zone. So if we do the math, that's 6 p.m. So probably waking up from their last nap at 5:30, being up a couple hours, doing your bedtime routine, getting down by 7:30, 8 o'clock. Okay, I'm gonna keep my eye on these questions, but let's continue. I'm gonna go through a couple more of these, and then we're gonna go into the next slides. Um, let's see. I don't see any twin parents in here, so I'm not gonna touch on the twins one today. We had like two twin moms in the last class, and I was like, oh my gosh, God bless you. Um, let's see. Teething. Let's talk about teething. So I also get a lot of questions about teething. What do I do if my baby's teething? They're really uncomfortable. There's a couple things you could do with teething. First is you could provide comfort and just put everything on pause and you could just help baby through it. It's uncomfortable, I recognize that. Or you could do what we have done, and there's no right or wrong. Like if you are responding to teething with extra comfort, like and you are set back, and I say set back because there's no, you know, if sleep training is what you've chosen for your family, like you're gonna have setbacks and you'll just have to like retrain or reintroduce your sleep training method. Teething is the same thing. If you decide to provide extra comfort, you start nursing back to sleep or feet or rocking back to sleep, that's totally fine just to get them through that teething bout. When the bout is done, you can just retrain and it'll likely go faster than it did the first time. Or if you don't see teething as like true illness, like remember that need, like is my baby well? Um, you could see it both ways. We've generally gotten through teething bouts just fine with sleep training. Our babies did experience discomfort with teething, but we never had to like pause progress or we kind of just sleep trained through it and it was totally fine. Um, so you could push through teething bouts with your sleep training method just fine. Um, okay. All right. Let's move on. We're gonna get through, I know like there's a ton of questions in here. I'm gonna start with the remaining questions in our Q&A. And if any of these questions speak out to you that we didn't cover, maybe call them out in the Q&A. But hopefully some of these common FAQs were helpful for you. Um, we went into this. So this is just like a sample visual of if my baby is feeding at night still. Can I sleep train? The answer is yes, but like the transition I encourage you to take on is transitioning from feeding your baby to sleep versus feeding them only during their scheduled feeds. So, For example, if your baby only needs to eat once at nighttime, this is what it might look like. So bedtime 7:30, scheduled feeding is at 1, and wake up at 7. If baby wakes up looking for boob anytime between 7:30 and 1, you respond with your sleep training method. You don't respond with boob or bottle or whatever it is. You only get them up for their feeding at that scheduled time. And same thing if it's, if your baby requires 3 feeds at night, only sticking to those 3 feeds. And anything in between, if baby's waking up and having a fuss or they're looking to nurse back to sleep, then you respond with your sleep training method, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. Let's talk about naps. Naps, naps, naps. Let's go back. Let's go back to our experience with our daughter. Daytime sleep is really hard because it's about seeing them through the developing how to connect sleep cycles, and that's really, really hard to do. Daytime sleep is just, it's tough and it takes a lot of patience. Before we nap trained or sleep trained for naps, this is what Jade's days would look like in the early months. She would only sleep for 15 minutes, and that barely gave me enough time to like use the bathroom, take a shower, have any type of time to myself. Time with my husband was out the window. We were living, together and we were married to each other, but we had no time. And like the horrible naps is what, contributed to that. So this is what a typical day would look like. Nap one would be 15 minutes. She'd wake up crying, then 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20. 5 nap days those were brutal. And I'm like, why is my kid not sleeping more than 15 minutes? Is something wrong? And nothing was wrong. What was wrong is I wasn't giving her a chance to connect her 15-minute sleep cycle with the next sleep cycle. And so once we sleep trained for nights and we started to figure out naps, this is what our days look like after that. Nap one would be 2 hours. Nap two would be an hour and a half to 2 hours, and nap three would be a cat nap. And this was probably around like 6, 7 months of age. Or no, sorry, not 6 months. We didn't sleep train her then. Like nine, I mean like 9, 10 months of age. And this is like our days were completely, I transitioned. I was able to get things done during her nap time. I could take a nap. I could clean my house. I could go do chores. I could scroll my phone. I could just recharge. And all it took was, really allowing her to develop the ability to connect her sleep cycles. And my husband was a big part of this because I was back at work. He was not in a position to like rock her to sleep for every nap. He's like, this isn't working. Like, we're gonna get this girl to nap. Oops, sorry. Let me represent this. So he was really, really helpful in this because I was already back at work. Okay. So this was me. But in that before scenario. This is what a sleep cycle looks like. So the babies kind of cycle in and out of sleep, especially, during the daytime. So her first sleep cycle would be 15 minutes. I was so like obsessed and confused and curious about this. I would time from the time she closed her eyes and fell asleep to the time that her eyes opened. Because when her eyes opened, I was like, oh, okay, she's awake now. 15 minutes just on the dot. It would be on the dot. It was crazy. She would wake up. Her first sleep cycle was 15 minutes on the dot. Sometimes it'd be 20, but it wouldn't be any more than 20 minutes. And I thought she would only nap for 15 minutes, but the reality was I needed to allow her the time to connect one sleep cycle to the next, and then it was off to the races. So, um, getting there can happen, but it takes a lot of time. And sometimes when you've waited for something to happen for a week, you're like, oh, this just isn't working. My baby is a short napper. No, it can take a lot of time. It could take a few weeks, it could take a couple months. We just have to really be patient with it. So here's my approach to naps. If you saw success with your nights with a particular method, I would recommend using that same exact method for naps, with some caveats. So there's some caveats here. So if you're using Ferber just like we did, I would do the same thing. I would have some semblance of a nap time routine, which is basically just I would do like a warm washcloth on the face. I would enter the room or nursery or wherever it was that they were sleeping, close the blinds, turn on the sound machine. For daytime, some parents swear by having like blackout curtains. We've never relied on blackout curtains. There's nothing wrong with relying on blackout curtains. You know, some kids just do better with that. But our thought process is if we're traveling or in different environments where we don't have blackout curtains, I don't want my baby to like not be able to nap and rely on those things. So we would just close the blinds and make it kind of darker, like not bright light. So having some kind of nap time routine and then doing the same exact thing as that initial bedtime, laying baby down wide awake, starting check-ins if needed. If baby starts crying right away, doing those check-ins, or if they fall asleep and wake up, then starting the check-ins. But here's where like a different timing component comes in. So daytime is hard because you don't want to get into an overtired zone because that could just spiral the rest of your day. It could bleed into your nights and then you and your baby will just not be happy. So my rule of thumb is if my baby isn't asleep after 30 minutes of my method, or say they wake up, 15 minutes later and I'm doing my method, if they're not like fully asleep after 30 minutes and they're still crying, then I'm just calling it a wash and I'm doing what's called rescuing the nap, which means I go in there and I do whatever I need to do to get baby to sleep. I contact nap, I nurse to sleep, I feed to sleep, I rock to sleep. I do whatever it is. And the reason being overtired is worse than like breaking the nap sleep training progress. Like that it trumps that. So I rescue the nap. There's always going to be another nap to try this with. Okay. So if this happens after 30 minutes, just go rescue the nap, do a quick, 20, 30-minute contact nap, and then try again at the next nap. Um, so yeah, if baby falls asleep and then wakes up, um, okay. So yeah, sorry. This is a different, alternative that could happen if you're not rescuing the nap. So say baby falls asleep after doing your check-ins or doing your method, but they wake up, say, I don't know, like 40, 45 minutes into the nap. Then I implement what's called crib hour. So this allows baby to try and connect their sleep cycles. You're giving them up until the hour mark to do so. So if my baby wakes up 45 minutes into the nap and they're just awake, I'm leaving them alone. I'm leaving them alone. I'm seeing if they can like connect their sleep cycle. Because here's what happened when we finally let Jade have the space to do this. I would see her little eyes open at like 20 minutes, and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna leave her alone. I'm gonna see what she can do. And I would like be doing chores, and then I'd look back on the monitor, and she'd be fast asleep. So she was able to finally connect those sleep cycles because I gave her the space too. So if your baby does fall asleep, but they wake up before the hour mark, implement crib hour. So bringing them to that full hour of being in the crib by themselves, giving them that space up to the hour so that it doesn't interfere too much with your next like wake time, but also giving them the space to try and connect their sleep cycles. And in that case, one of two things will happen. They'll either fall back asleep or they won't. If they don't, just get them at that hour mark and then try again next time. This is very much a lather, rinse, repeat thing. It's not oh, this is going to take you a week and you'll see success. Naps, it's really just about trial and error, patience. It's a lot, it's a lot of rescuing at first. Daytimes are hard. But if you see them wake up, just give them the space to try and connect that sleep cycle with the next one, and you'll be surprised at what they're able to do with a little bit of space and patience with them. And again, like I'm really encouraging guys, like naps are not it. They're really not it, but there is always another one. That's what's great about naps versus nights is you're gonna have more trial and error with naps because there's so many of them. So okay. Just some words of wisdom here. Naps, they will take longer. They'll take longer to nail. I think they're a bit trickier than nights, so I always say nail your nights first. You'll have some sense of satisfaction that you'll be able to go and have a crazy day of naps, but then you'll have a good night's sleep. So nail your nights first. Daytime sleep definitely can bleed into the quality of nighttime sleep. So I've learned this from a lot of other moms and sleep training resources. Once you start having really productive naps, try to cap them at 2 hours. I know it's tempting to just let them sleep, and we know we're told to never wake a sleeping baby, but the longer they kind of sleep during the day, it can kind of disrupt the quality of sleep at night, can lead to more night waking. So try to cap your naps at 2 hours. Um, Sleepy cues are always better than wake windows, in my opinion. So, especially if you're implementing crib hour, try not to obsess over wake windows. Like, look at how your baby's acting. If they're kind of zoning out, they've got glossy eyes, they're telling you with their body language that they're getting tired. Lean into that more than trying to stretch their wake window, in my opinion. It's, if you think your baby can handle stretching the wake window, as you're trying to, transition into a different number of naps per day, then you can definitely do that. But I think looking at your baby and really sensing when they're sleepy is like a good sign of like, okay, they're telling me that they're a little bit tired. Let's go try the nap. This is probably going to be a productive one. Um, I talked about this a little bit a few minutes ago, but pay attention to your last nap timing, especially as you start thinking about your ideal bedtime. So if your ideal bedtime is 7 p.m. and your baby can only stay awake for a couple hours at a time, then maybe wake them up from their last nap at 5 o'clock. That way you'll still have your set bedtime at 7 p.m. It won't bleed over into, 8, 9 p.m. So pay attention to your last nap timing. And then again, there'll always be another nap. If you're gonna have a bunch of naps that are like fail naps, but there's always another one, and eventually you're gonna have that one that changes everything, and you're like, oh man, I have my days back. What am I gonna do with myself? Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. Yeah, keep dropping questions in the chat, and then we'll get to them during the live Q&A. Let's go through exercise 2. This exercise, we actually didn't get through we didn't get through this in my first class, so I'm really happy that we have the time to do this. This exercise is called I Can Do Hard Things. So less focused on the outcomes of sleep training and now focused on, okay, I'm really now picturing myself doing this with my family, but I'm sure about doing this, but I'm terrified of, what's going to happen in the moment. It's kind of like childbirth, like you have a labor plan, you know what you're going to do, but nothing compares to when you're in the moment and when you have to make like those game time decisions. And you can prepare as much as possible, but like in the moment, I'm going to be faced with some really tough challenges. And I don't know how I'm going to respond to those. So, can you raise your hand if you've completed exercise 2? Because just like with Ryan, I would love to kind of go through and ask questions and hear from you and allow others to hear your responses. Is anyone willing to share how they completed this exercise? Don't be shy. No, okay, that's okay. No worries. I'm just gonna walk through these questions then, and then if anyone is comfortable answering them on the spot, just come off mute, and then if not, we can just keep going. Okay.
Hello. Oh,
Hi. Hi.
hi.
Is it Talisa?
Talissa.
Talissa, it's so
Mhm.
great to meet you. Thank you
Nice
for
to meet
joining.
you. Thank you. Of
Yeah, of course.
course.
So let's go through the first question. So, when you think about sleep training, what are some challenges that you anticipate that make you nervous about starting sleep training?
I think it's because it feels so different than it did with my first daughter. So when I looked at it was basically we're kind of co-sleeping right now, which I never imagined us doing. We do have the crib in the room, so I feel like the challenge is, well, how do I stop the co-sleeping, get him into the crib? It seems like it's a daunting task to do all of that.
Yeah.
Plus, he still likes to feed at night. And like right now, he's like crying
Oh,
because
baby.
he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I want to feed some more, but I don't. I want to play. So he's 11 months right now.
Okay.
So yeah, still
Yeah,
navigating that. It just seems really
definitely,
daunting.
definitely.
That's my challenge.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you called that out because even just the simple shift in environment is
Yeah.
like it's really, really hard to wrap your head around that, and I totally get that. I think, and I don't like I mostly want to go through this and like hear out your challenges. There are like things that have helped a lot of parents and like ourselves included is just introducing them to that environment during either during the day for like a nap or two or starting your nights there, like
Hmm.
even laying them down to sleep and then pulling them to bed halfway through the night and
That's
just
what
like
we've been
start.
doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's no, that's amazing.
Okay.
Because like just getting them kind of in that environment in any way, shape, or form before you even decide if this is right for you has been helpful. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, so yeah, let's move on into the next one. If you're picturing yourself kind of mid sleep training, what what types of things do you think about that might lead you to stop or like call it? I would love to kind of know. Or
I
if
would
you've
say,
started, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, we started, but it's like the lack of sleep. It's so,
Yes.
and I've heard people say, yeah, co-sleeping helps you sleep more. And I feel like that's really not the case because I'm waking up and like still like nursing him. He's like nursing and then going back to sleep and then nursing
Yeah.
and going back to sleep throughout the night. And he's like 92nd percentile. Like he's not, he's not
Right, right, right.
a tiny baby. Like my husband's huge. So I'm backpedaling on that because it's like, okay, he's waking up and he's crying. Even after naps, like he'll be fine. He has a great nap, 2 hour nap, hour and a
Yeah,
half, and then he just wait. The crying is also another reason that stops us, is because I'm like, I hate hearing the crying and I'm tired. So that
definitely.
makes me stop or backpedal. But we have done the crib technique, like putting him in the crib. He wakes
Yeah.
up crying like around 10, and then, but he's learning so much right now. He's like trying to walk, stand. Like I could see why his brain is working overtime.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's a really good point that you raise. Like, especially as babies get older and they're going through all these milestones, like they're getting smarter. Like
Yeah.
they're getting smarter. They kind of know what you feed into and they're really strong-willed and they're willing they're willing to go like they're willing to run the marathon to kind of get you to cave, honestly. And that's what we
Mhm.
found. It was hardest with our daughter because she was the oldest and she was smart and she knew. She like I think that's one thing that we shouldn't discredit our kids. They're really smart, especially and like babies they're so resilient, they're so adaptive, and in the same way that they're willing to protest, they're able to channel that into learning this skill, and that's why I say like it's really about like your readiness and like your readiness to kind of stick through that. And there's no like
Yeah.
right or wrong time to start. But I really appreciate you sharing that. It's the
Yeah.
crying is it's the biggest thing to get over for sure.
And
Um,
also one point that I forgot to
yeah.
mention that I wrote is that he was having issues with like reflux. So I
Oh,
think when
okay.
that starts in the beginning where you're like, okay, let me hold him up and make sure that that 30 minutes before you lay them back
Yeah, yeah,
down,
yeah,
that whole
yeah.
thing. So now he doesn't have the reflex anymore. He might cry a lot and then he throws up. But I think it's maybe a little PTSD, if anything, of
Oh,
oh
definitely.
my gosh, something's gonna happen because he used to have the reflex, and now weeks and months go by. It's like, oh, you're not really doing that anymore, but my
Yeah.
brain is still locked into that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real hard to remove yourself from those early months, those early challenges.
Mhm,
Yeah, reflex. Oh man, I can't like that sounds really, really tough. Was
mhm, mhm.
that how long did that last for you guys?
For him, I would say like 7 months. It wasn't
Oh
going
my
through his nose;
gosh.
it would just go out his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why my daughter had reflux went through her nose. But we did like the Ferber slash, what was it, Precious Little Sleep? There was a book
Hmm.
that had that, so it worked for her.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
but with him, it's like, oh, this is completely
It's
different.
different.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
different.
Mhm.
And so as you kind of think about, approaching your decision to sleep train, are there strategies or like methods of support that you think you would respond well to, especially in those moments of really intense crying or like thinking about your baby in a new environment? Like what are those
Mhm.
types of support systems that you think you would need to kind of push through that?
Um, I put down that me removing myself completely and
Hmm.
or alternating with my husband because I'm like, oh, I feel bad. You still wake up really early.
Yeah.
I really want him to get enough sleep. And so like I just really he'll be locked in and then I would switch, like, we tag, and I think that would be the best way. And me just saying, okay, this is just temporary. I've been saying that over and over.
Yeah.
It's temporary, and just really like buckling down, with having like my mom or someone else in the house as well to kind of help coach us through that and kind of help me be like, okay, I'm gonna go sleep in this the guest room with
Yeah.
my mom and my dad.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
I feel like that ultimately is really gonna help because lately when they come they can't really help much because they're like, oh, you're just with the baby trying to get him to sleep.
Yeah.
And I should just kind of use them as support instead of saying, no, I have to do it. I have to do it. Um, just that. Yeah.
Yeah, it really, really helps to have, even outside of, your partner, folks who
Yes.
are on board to even just check on you.
Hmm.
If they're not part of the active sleep training, like it's not even that you might need. It's, folks in your circle to just tell you that, I'm on board with your decision and like, let's focus on what you're gonna achieve out like after this, like once you've hit the finish line. And I think that's one thing that we've really benefited from with our families. They've been really supportive in our parenting decisions, and my mom and
Hmm.
my mother-in-law, they always say like, "Oh, like things are so different now," and I'm like, "Yeah, they
Yes.
sure are," but they're like, they're still very supportive and like non-judgmental, and so I think surrounding yourself with those types of people is really helpful. And yeah, I like what you called out in terms of your husband stepping in and knowing when it's too much for you, and
Hmm.
especially
Hmm.
if y'all are aligned on, the decision to sleep train.
Oh yeah.
It is more like my Maurice has had to hardline me so many times. He's just like, go outside, like you're not helping this. Like
Hmm.
you know what you want to do. Like you've done this twice before. Like
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
outside, go take a walk, like I'll do this. And it's helped. Like it's then that's where you really need to like kind of let them step up and
Hmm.
take less control. And I know it's hard to like not be in control as a mom.
Yeah.
But
But they do a great job. So it's like, go
yeah,
ahead, you can do it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Alyssa,
you.
for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And I know that that was probably really helpful to hear from other women
Oh,
too.
it was. Thank you. Thank you.
Of
Bye.
course. Okay, so I encourage everyone to complete exercise two as well as exercise one. Where exercise one was focused on outcomes, exercise two is focused on challenges. And you know yourself best in those moments of high stress, but you know what's on the other end of it. What's going to help you get there? Like what support system will help you get through those challenges? What techniques or tactics or strategies do you think you would respond well to in the moment of high stress or hearing those types of things? Hearing intense crying or having to kind of work with yourself to get through those hard moments. Focus on what those things would be and how you can put them into place before you start. So, like, if you have like a best friend or a girlfriend that you want, like you want her to be available on her phone to like text you and walk you back off off the ledge, during that time, like tell her that. Like I've texted a ton of friends during sleep training all three times. Like one friend I have to thank for even introducing me to this. And like asked her so many questions, and she's just been like a shoulder to ugly cry on, and I've done it so many times. So knowing how you best respond to this and what support systems you can put into play is really important. And then again, focus on your outcomes. That's like you deserve the outcomes that you want for yourself. Okay, the last bit of class before we go into live Q&A. Let's say that we've spent almost 2 hours together already. You're intrigued, but you're still not quite ready, and that's totally fine. So you're in one of two camps. You're either fired up about sleep training, you want to do it, you know your outcomes, you know your challenges, or you're in the other camp where you're just like, I'm still not sure if this is for us. Um, that's perfectly fine. But you still, let's say you still want to make progress. You still want to, if you think that eventually you'll get there and you don't want to waste a bunch of time and you still want to take advantage. If that sounds like you, that's great because we're going to talk through some things that you can start working on that isn't sleep training. So these are what I call like fundamentals of sleep training that might help you feel more prepared when you decide to kind of take the leap with your family. The first is following eat, wake, sleep. Some people are really turned off by this phrase, but I think it's really helpful for me. So, what I mean by eat, wake, sleep is getting like transitioning into the habit of feeding your baby right when they wake up. So waking up for the day, they eat. If like once they're awake, you have a little playtime, eating right when they wake up. Not just for the day, but from after naps too. So when they wake up from their nap, feeding them right when they wake up, or a few minutes after when they're nice and hungry. And then doing playtime and then having their wake window. And then when they go to sleep, they are not associating needing to eat or nurse with falling asleep. And what I've found is by following this early on or early in your journey to start sleep training, is it helps to kind of soften the blow of that feed to sleep association. So this was a really strong association for our daughter. She would only be able to get to sleep by using my boob as a pacifier. And it's a vicious cycle, and that's what my nights would be. Is being when we moved into our home, like we did put her in her own room, but I was up in her room 7, 8, 9, 10 times a night, just like putting my boob in her mouth and getting her back to sleep. She'd sleep for half an hour, and then I'd repeat the cycle. My back was not in a good spot. It was really rough. So starting to, get in the habit of eat, wake, sleep is really helpful. Um, Laying down sleepy. So, some people call this like drowsy but awake. This will help your baby like at least start to look around. Like if you lay them down into their bed or pack and play or wherever it might be, and they're about to fall asleep, like if their eyes are like this, that's good because the last thing that they're going to see is not, me nursing or like me being rocked. The last thing that I see is like my own ability to like close my eyes and be by myself. Um, so drowsy but awake is like it's a good early way to let them fall asleep independently. And then the more that you do that, you can have them be a little more awake before you put them down, right? And then that's kind of a good way to introduce yourself into that. If you're not comfortable yet with, those prolonged periods of letting them cry, or even if you're doing Ferber or even those other methods, just give them a quick chance. Like if you're not comfortable with 3 minutes, but you're comfortable with 20, 30 seconds, then take that as a win. And, that's what you're comfortable with, then that is your truth, and that is what I want for you to try. So if you're comfortable with them, figuring it out and protesting for 30 seconds, then time yourself for 30 seconds and stick with that. Let that be your benchmark. Um, we talked about new environments and how that can be really daunting for you and for your baby. So start introducing them to your desired environment for them to sleep. So when we brought all of our kids home, well, not Jade, but with our subsequent kids, with our boys, we would do naps in the crib from day one. So we would do like one nap in the crib or like starting it in the crib and just seeing how they did to at least get them familiar with the smell of the crib and the environment. That way, when you start sleep training, they're kind of familiar with that and they know it's like not a foreign place that they've been here before. And then in the same vein, starting your nights in the crib. So if you are co-sleeping or you're bed sharing, but you know you want to eventually sleep train, and maybe they're doing great with getting down at night and you're just being met with some night wakings, start your nights in the crib. Start your first hour there or your first few hours. Like put baby down in the crib, help them get to sleep there. Like you can nurse them, rock them to sleep, put them down in the crib, and then when they wake up, pull them into bed with you, and then you can have your first half of your night with them in the crib. That way you can start getting used to it, they can start getting used to it, and I don't think there's a drawback to having multiple environments as you start to, think about if it's the right decision for you. So just a few things you can work on if, you're still not super sure if this is the right call for your household. Okay, we made it. Oh my gosh, you guys have been so patient with me. Thank you so much. Let's do some live Q&A. Uh, I would love to kind of hear from you all, and I imagine that some of you are probably with your kids right now. It's so late. Um, if you asked a question in the chat and you're willing to kind of come off mute, maybe raise your hand if you want your question answered. Um, or if you don't want to come off mute, maybe just raise your hand anyway, and then I'll look for your question. Um, so I know someone said that they don't know how to use the raise hand feature, but if you do know how to use it, raise your hand. There should just be like a react button. It's a little heart in the Zoom app, and then you hit raise hand. Um, okay. Kavitha. Is that me saying your name right?
Yeah, Kavita, yes.
Kavitha, nice to meet you.
To meet you too. I've been following you for a very long time and I've taken
Oh my gosh,
so
thank
many,
you so much.
yes, so many tips and tricks of sleep training and, trying to get more sleep for the baby, more sleep for us. And, it's really been helpful. I'm a huge fan of yours. So
Oh
thank you
my
so much.
gosh. I
Yeah,
am very, very appreciative of you. Thank you so
thank you.
much. How can I
So,
help?
yeah, so my daughter is almost 10 months and she's been going through the separation anxiety, stranger anxiety milestone thing. So, the minute you drop her down, she cries her lungs out. She's
Hmm.
not been a crier actually, like, all these months, but right now she really cries so badly.
Hmm.
But at times we also know that she's just screaming to get some attention and not really crying. But these days, when I put her down, she's been sleep trained. But
Hmm.
these days, when I put her down in her crib for the night, she really cries, and it takes like a good 10-15 minutes for her to
Okay.
settle and self soothe and go back to sleep. At what point does this crying settle? Like, is there an end point to it, or is it like every day I need to, like, time my I need to watch my time and see how long she's going to cry and then she's going to put herself to sleep. Will that ever
So
stop?
yes, it will. It
Okay.
will. So this is a really hard age. So like even like 8 months to 11 months, and you called it perfectly. Like the separation anxiety is really, really intense at this age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would I would really encourage you if you can to just push through that. How long has this been happening for?
I think close to a month now.
A month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've encountered this exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where like I want to remind you that if you respond to that anxiety with you kind of backpedal a little bit, that's totally fine. So you respond to her if you're taking more time to rock or be present. That's okay to kind of see her through that rough anxiety. And if you're noticing that it's kind of out of character for her, you
Mm-hmm.
can certainly provide more presence, just knowing that you'll have to like more formally train when you notice that anxiety is lessening. Otherwise, you can continue like seeing through those 10, 15 minutes until she settles. But I do want to encourage you that that will not be the case long term.
Okay.
It is going to lessen and lessen. You will likely see it lessen
Okay.
before it completely stops. Um, so what are you doing now in those 10 to 15 minutes? I'd like to know.
So I am out of that room. So
Okay.
we live in an apartment where it's like a duplex, so the bedrooms are
Yeah.
upstairs. So I come downstairs. I try to put the baby monitor in the
Yeah.
slightest volume so that I am not. It's not triggering me that she's crying and I'm away from her and I'm not catering to her needs. So the more aware I am, it's I am able to bear that cry basically. So I just time 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
most of the times by that 11-12 minutes mark, she settles and she's asleep.
Yes. And how does she do kind of throughout that? Is this just for the night or is this naps as well?
So naps, sometimes for the naps, most times she's very sleepy for the
Okay.
naps, so she just goes down quietly. But sometimes in the nights, this at least the last 1 month this has been happening. So and it's been happening continuously. So I'm like, am I torturing her? Am I a bad mom for
Sure.
doing this? So
Oh,
all
no,
of
not
these
at all.
things keep
Yeah.
going in my head.
Yeah, so I think you were first of all, you're reacting in like a very normal way. It's hard. 10 minutes, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it really like
Yeah.
it feels like an eternity.
It's like doing a 1 minute plank and you're constantly watching the
Yes.
timer, it
Yes.
really feels like that.
Definitely. But I really I first want to admire you for the fact that you're letting her get there because I think what you should recognize too is that she is getting there. Like she's getting there within those 10 15 minutes.
Yes.
And so she's very smart, she's very capable. Those 10 and 15 minutes are going to become 8 and 9 or 5 and 7. And so a month, it might last for a couple more weeks, even a few more weeks, but
Hmm.
the fact that she's able to settle eventually and get herself down and still waking up very happy and rested, focus on that. And I assure you it's going to get less and less to the point where it's not. It's just like this anxiety phase is just a phase.
Okay.
Yeah, so focus on those. Do continue doing what you're doing. So just encourage you to keep following that. And I would love to follow up with you. Can you put your Instagram handle in the chat so that I can write it down?
For sure,
Because I'd
definitely.
love to follow up with you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for the
much.
question.
Thanks. Yeah.
Bree, you are next on my little hand tracker. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Janaea. I'm good. Thank you for asking. Thank you so much for hosting this. You've done
Of
such a lovely
course.
job.
I'm so glad.
Thank you, thank you. So I kind of wanted to just get your insight on this
Yeah.
because you have three kids. I have three kids as well, and I'm trying to sleep train my 9-month-old. He does really well for naps. He
Hmm.
goes to sleep independently in the crib during nap time. It was super easy and convenient for us to do just because during the summer I'm able to occupy myself when I step away from him with my other kids.
Hmm.
But at nighttime, we just have not achieved that sleep training yet because it does sound like super daunting and like it just sounds so scary because of the crying and the waking of the other kids.
Hmm.
And so I'm wondering if you have like any advice to like just overcome that scariness, that fear, and to just kind of like push through because I know great things are on the other side. I'm just like, I'm worried about the other kids and
Yeah.
our sleep. So I don't know if you have any words of encouragement or.
Oh, absolutely. No, and I think I mean, it's hard because you want to not disrupt like your older kids' quality of sleep as much as possible, I'm sure. And like what I would love to know, I guess a follow up first is what is your current setup with your older kids? And are they all kind of in the same room? Is your youngest with you and your older
Yeah.
two are in their own room or how does the setup look?
So my husband and I room share with our 9-month-old,
Okay.
and the two older kids, my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old, are in a room together,
Okay.
and it's just right down the hall. So you can pretty much hear everything that's going on. And we've already had like situations where we've tried, and the 2-year-old is having lots of trouble and lacking
Hmm.
sleep. And then it just gets like pretty nasty from there.
Yeah. Are your older two, are they pretty like independent sleepers? Or do they kind of,
Yes.
okay, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because every time you bring home a baby and you're an expert in this field, like it's changed for your other kids. And it's like you are I admire how like sensitive you're being towards them. I think like one piece of encouragement that I want to give you is like you have done such a great job with your older two in achieving like confidence and independence in their sleep abilities, and they are
Thank
able
you.
to sleep with each other in their own environments, and they've probably forged such a great bond, and they have only you and your husband to thank for that. And so I think you should first like admire yourself for that and really call that out. I think where you should focus now is, do you want your new baby to have those same skills that you have afforded to your others, right? Do you want
100%.
do you want like do you want to be able to say, I have given this gift to all of my kids? And I think like as I was talking to a friend who just brought home her second, and her baby is now like 6 months old, and she got through sleep training with her now 4-year-old, and she was like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this again. Like I really don't. I
Yeah.
don't know how I'm gonna do it. It's so hard. And I'm like, look at this way. Like, do you want your girls to have very different sleep experiences when you're in different environments or when you're,
Hmm.
going on trips as a family? Or do you want
Oh,
one of
that's
them to
good.
have
Yeah.
a harder time? Do you want one of them to have a harder time or like have an equally as fun time with those skills that you're giving to them? And so
Right.
I would encourage you to focus on the fact that it is a short-lived learning period for everyone. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable for everyone, but like long term, they're going to have, a great gift that you've given to all of them. Like they'll have the confidence to go to sleep in their own environment, on their own accord. And they'll only have you and your husband to thank for that. So, it's hard to get over that, especially when it is such a tough transition. But focus
Hmm.
on the experiences that you want them to have. And if you want them, like, do you want them to be different, or do you want them to all like be able to say with confidence, like, I can do this, and I have, my experience or my skills are no different from my brothers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
try
that's
and focus on that. And I'm just encouraging you to don't rush yourself into it, but I think you can get there. And you've done such a lovely job so far. And I'm also like a huge fan of your content. So
oh my gosh,
yeah,
as I am of yours. Yeah, thank you so much. You're just like
of
so
course.
resourceful, and I appreciate your help. Thank you. That was really reassuring.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Um, all right. Sophia, it's nice to meet you, Sophia. How can I help you?
Hello, thank you for taking the time tonight and setting up a free uh training or
Sure.
you know. So I just had a couple questions. We did try sleep training when he's 1 years old now. This is my first kid. We tried sleep training around 3 or 4 months, and my husband was getting really tired. I mean, he had work the next day.
Yeah,
So we stopped and we started co-sleeping, but even then he would still wake up once or twice, but it was easier to put him back to sleep because he was right next to us.
sure.
Um, so we want to do it now. We have a crib. I think we'll put it in our room. And I just wanted to know, like, with the 7 day period for the Ferber method,
Yeah.
after day 7, do you continue with the day 7 interval? And I feel like you probably said it already, but do you keep like the 20 minutes, 25, and then 30 subsequent minutes afterwards?
Yes. Yeah. So I I need to pull up like the full chart, but honestly, anything after 20 minutes, it's gonna have the same impact. So I would just stay with the max that's listed here.
Okay.
If you I am willing to bet that you will like after, you know, day 10, 12, you will not even reach 2 or 3 check-ins. If you're, you know, hitting that consistently,
Okay.
and you're responding in a consistent way. Um, but, you know, if you do find yourself kind of reaching into that, you know, 10, 14 day mark, I would still stay with these intervals, and you'll likely not be reaching past that second or third check-in, with just how much time this is. Yeah.
Okay. And then,
Um, yeah.
sorry, and then
No, it's okay.
when you room shared, did
hmm
you use a baby monitor as well, or did you just kind of listen for like
Um,
I
Yeah, I mean, our room was like he was literally right next to me. So we did use a noise machine. So but it wasn't to the point where I couldn't hear him. So we didn't use a monitor. Um, we we did when he moved into his brother's room. But it was sufficient to not use a monitor. Now, if it depends on kind of like the setup of your room. If you're using a divider and say maybe baby's on like the opposite end of the room and there's a little bit of proximity there,
Mhm.
then if it's a better kind of setup for you to be able to just peek over at a monitor, then I would encourage you to do that for sure. Instead of like having to get up and like just peek over and see if baby's asleep or
Mhm.
not, or like what stage of soothing that they're at, right? So I would leave that up to you. If their sleep space is right next to yours and you're able to kind of like peek your head around, then I don't think you really need one. But if it helps you kind of stay in bed and like get a little more rest for yourself, then
Mhm.
you can install a monitor for sure.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, I'd love to check in. So please drop your IG handle as well. I'd love to keep track.
Well, thanks.
All right, Desi. Hi, Desi. Am I saying your name right? Oh, I think you removed your hand. But if you want to come off mute, let me know. Um,
Oops,
Kavitha, did
sorry,
you?
can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes, I can hear you. Hi, Desi.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So everyone's asleep at the house. So I've got a 4-year-old who sleeps in her own room. Downstairs, we've got our master and then that one bedroom downstairs. And I've got
Okay.
a 20-month-old who I'm
Oh,
wanting to
nice.
sleep train.
Yeah.
Um, he had acid reflux up until about 3 months ago.
Okay.
So he still requires a bottle before he goes to bed.
hmm
Uh, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night at least once.
Okay.
So would you say wean him that second waking up? Like take that all out completely when he wakes up?
So when you say he needs a bottle before bed, is this how close to bedtime is that first bottle?
Literally right before bed.
Oh, right
And
before
he
bed.
falls
Okay.
asleep
With it.
drinking it. Yeah.
Okay.
Do
Okay.
you recommend moving that bottle to like the living room?
I would,
Like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, if as much as you can, and you don't need to even start with like you can do it cold turkey, like make it a new environment, or what you could do is you can kind of keep it in the same room so you can kind of snuggle a little earlier into bedtime routine. You know, you can even
Hmm.
have him drink it while you're doing a book or something, or while you're listening to a song or singing. So just
Hmm.
while kind of earlier in the like drowsy stage, and then slowly inching that back. So I would try and bring that last feeding back maybe 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime. It's going to be a little harder at first because I'm sure that he's associating that with like, you know, that process of getting to
Sleeping.
sleep. Yeah.
Yep.
So I would just inch it back a little more softly. So be maybe being present while he's awake in the same room. And then eventually, like once he's done a couple days of that, then you can bring it to the living room and then make that kind of like a new part of like maybe
Give
like
me
the
design
first part.
suggestions. uh Baby shower is the, you know,
Oh,
the event, and
oh,
I'm
sorry,
looking.
Kavit, that one. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Desi. So yeah, I would encourage you to bring that earlier. Like the goal should be like earliest part of the bedtime routine. That way he's
Okay.
still nice and awake.
Okay.
And then to answer your question about the middle of the night.
Hmm.
So if I imagine that his growth is going really, really well,
Yes.
he's 20 months old.
Yes.
At that age, like he's a healthy toddler.
Yep.
I would try and the
I
middle of the
think he
night one's gonna be,
associates.
yeah,
Yeah.
he for sure associates it with getting back to sleep. So it's gonna be a lot of consistency on your part. It's gonna be a lot of, protesting in the middle of the night. So you could
Hmm.
do a couple of things. You could either, and is it a bottle or sippy cup or something
It's
like
a
that?
bottle.
It's a
It's a
bottle.
bottle. Hmm.
So you could do a couple of things. You could either, wean cold turkey and just kind of help him through that. And, you could make it, kind of like a game, like either like the bottle fairy has come and we're saying bye to the middle of the night bottle kind of before bedtime and like start, making it kind of a story time thing. Or
Hmm.
you could do it gradually. So you could start giving him a bottle with a little less and less of that milk
Oh, okay.
over
Okay.
like a 2 or 3 week period. And you could kind of keep it the same. If it's warm, just keep it warm. And then you could like maybe even transition to water.
Okay.
Um, it's going to be, a little bit of a challenge, but I think as long as you can do it gradually, if that's a little more approachable for you, then I'm confident that you'll see success with that. Once you are fully weaned and he doesn't really rely on that to get back to sleep, but maybe he's still waking up, then it comes to just consistency of whether it's a sleep training method or if he's in a toddler bed, just walking him back to, is he in a bed or a crib or
Oh,
um
that's going to be my third question. So
okay,
he's
yeah.
currently in a crib in
Okay.
our bedroom,
Okay.
literally your same situation of
Yeah.
sleeping next to my
Yeah.
bed, right? And then when he wakes up, he drinks his bottle and co-sleeps with me because I
Yeah.
can't get him back in the crib.
Definitely.
So I was going to move him into the office to sleep
Yeah.
train him and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
move him into my daughter's room
Oh,
so
sure.
that, once he's settled, he's not waking her up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, to make it if you want to make it like as little change all at once, then
Hmm.
you can do that gradual weaning first, and then you can pick your sleep training method that you'd like to do, and then you can sleep train. You
Okay.
can certainly do it all at once. That might be a little, jarring for you and for him. So if you want to address those middle of the night feedings first by gradually weaning, then I encourage you to do that. But
Do you,
yeah.
do you think moving him to the office and sleep training is too much of a change at once, or do you think that's okay?
I think it's definitely okay. I think it's okay
Okay.
if you're feeling ready and confident, and maybe you can, during the day just say like, oh, like let's decorate your new sleep environment, or
Okay.
yeah, just make it comfortable and fun. Like it doesn't need to be super rigid. Yeah, and
Because
you
I
you
also have to
can.
work out of it.
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. So if he knows I mean, your scent is already in there, you can
Hmm.
give him a lovey or something, and yeah, you definitely don't need to sleep train in your bedroom, and it actually might be easier on you if it's a separate environment.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much.
absolutely. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, let me go through the questions in here now. I'm gonna take a couple more questions and then we're gonna call it for the night. And then I'm writing down all of these handles. If anyone if anyone here would like me to kind of follow up with you directly, or if you ever want questions, I'm gonna like Instagram has a way for me to like flag you in my inbox. So if you want to ask questions that we didn't get to, I'd love to make the time and like chat with you and get to know you. So drop it in the chat. But I'll take a couple more. Let's see. Okay, Marie. Marie's asking, why does my baby wake
crying from naps? Is that normal? Is he not getting enough rest? So I might need a little more context about this question. My kids definitely have woken up crying from naps, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's they might just be waking up looking for you. Not they will not always wake up like all rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes they'll just wake up, they're either hungry or they're looking for you, or maybe they've fallen asleep with some kind of association, like you're there, and they wake up and the environment is now different. So it's not dangerous. They're just trying to communicate that they probably want you, or they are waking up to something that they did not fall asleep to, right? So it could also be that they're not getting enough rest, but I might need a little more context from you. So if you want to type in some additional context, then I can kind of follow up on that too. Um, cool. And then we'll take one more from Claudia. Any recommendation when you go on vacations and you have to share room with the baby? Yes, baby already sleeps in a separate room. Going away for 10 days, I'm so scared he'll have some sort of regression. Yeah, so traveling is so hard because you really test what your baby is capable of and like what you are capable of even more so. And it's hard because when you travel, you don't have, you don't, it's expensive to pay for like a suite or an Airbnb with a lot of rooms. And you don't always have that luxury of doing that. So like in Disney, like we went to Disneyland earlier this year, and we had at that point we had already moved Kenzo into Malachi's room, and so he was, and like we had a ton of family with us, and so he was back kind of sleeping in our room, and I was like, oh, how is he gonna do? Here's what I recommend. If you have already sleep trained your baby, I would recommend just treating it like your room that baby's sleeping in is their bedroom. And it kind of sounds weird, but you're gonna keep your bedtime routine the exact same. If you have like stuff in there that you're gonna want to get while your baby's asleep, so if you have like, a one bedroom, but you have like somewhere else that you and your family can hang out while baby's sleeping, then just try and make that setup work. But um, utilize a portable crib, pack and play, have that same exact put down routine for naps and nights for baby, knowing that when you lay them down for the night and you are going to come in eventually later to sleep, they're going to wake up probably. And you're just going to have to like try and like roll over and make it as low interaction as possible. And they will surprise you, I promise. Like they're definitely going to surprise you. What's going to be awkward is that you'll have to like use your phone flashlight to stumble through the room, and that's okay. It's a different kind of adventure when you're on vacation, but I would encourage you to really try and treat it as much like home in terms of routine, in terms of this is your sleep space. If you don't have access to like a barrier or a curtain, um, honestly, we've when we traveled down to Paso Robles to go see my mom, we stayed in like an Embassy Suites for a night, and the bathroom was like ridiculously huge. And it had a vent and it had a fan and it had a window. And so we put our pack and play in there just for nap times for Kenzo, and he slept great. It was like a dedicated space. We had the pack and play in there, the noise machine. We treated his nap time routine the exact same. Um, and if you have access to like a big walk-in closet, something with a lot, just make sure it's like ventilated and you have a fan running. Then you can use that. That's totally safe. It's totally fine, as long as you have a pack and play or a crib or something like that. But if you're sharing rooms, yeah, just treat that the same as your bedtime at home, knowing that you're going to hit some snafus. Baby will wake up when you walk in, you trip on something, you make some noise, but that's okay. Like they will eventually fall back asleep. We got to give them the chance to prove us wrong. Um, cool. Well, I'm going to call it here, you guys. I imagine that everyone's tired. I'm a little bit tired too. I really, really appreciate you all for sticking with me for almost 2.5 hours. This session is going to be recorded, or it has been recorded. I'm going to download it, upload it to YouTube if you want to come back to it. But please, please, please drop in your IG handles. I'd love to follow up with you and reach out if you had questions that I wasn't able to answer. Really loved getting to know all of you. This is like the one experience that has really stuck with me as a mom, and if I can help anyone kind of get through this really challenging piece of motherhood, then I feel so abundantly blessed to be part of that journey with you. So thank you. This is such a blessing to my life and my family's life, and just getting to know my online community is so great. And wishing you guys a great rest of your night. Thank you for calling in from all over. I don't know if this is like gonna allow me to save all of these, uh, like this chat history. So I'm just gonna take some screenshots right now of all these handles. Um, but thank you so much. Feel free to drop off. Really, really appreciate y'all, and I will see you in the internet world. Bye. Good night.